But in this video, I'm going to talk about before and the concept of before in relations to the universe. So what is before? Before is always always preceding the now. So what was currently happening right now, currently in the moment, before is what happened, everything that happened before, everything that happened prior to what's happening right now. So that is what before, concept of what before is. I believe that before is what created everything. Before is what created the universe, atoms, subatomic particles, molecules, fields, space, time, all of these concepts, in my opinion, is created by before. And what I mean by before, well, before is an actual concept, as in before is actuality. There is arguments that states that there is no before. There's no such thing as before, but there is a such thing as before. Number one, it was a such thing as before a video someone might have put on YouTube. Before will be a time lapse for a plant. So if you look at a time lapse of a plant, it'll show well, it was a seed, time lapse. So as the time kept on going, it went, a seedling came up, and then it turned into a higher plant. It turned into a more mature plant, and then the flowering stage. But that before is tracked because you can see, well, it was before it went from the flowering stage. It was before it went from the seedling stage. It was before it went from the seed stage. And then you have even before you even set up the time lapse. So everything, even that's set up before the time lapse, well, all that is all considered as before. And again, that cannot be met, it's extremely hard to measure everything that was before. You gotta say that time lapse. Well, everything that was before the time lapse showing all the points of before, and then even before you even set up the time lapse, all that is considered before. Also before, you can say before, as I stated, before anybody put up a video, or even before this video was even put up. It was before on that. So, I mean, that concept of before is the same with the universe, because at some point, the universe appeared different. You can say, well, the current sun right now that is in the solar system, it was before. Well, it was before that particular sun or that star formed. It was before the Earth formed at the date that Earth particularly started to form. It was a before the Andromeda galaxy formed. So there was a point before the Big Bang actually happened. It was a point before those atoms may have formed into molecules. So there always was a point before. Now that point before is what preceded the universe, and therefore what drove everything that it is today. Again, it was before even the smallest points. It was a point that was before even when the universe was at a point smaller than the smallest subatomic particle that is just currently discovered today. Also, as what I feel like as before, what I think is as before. So picture research that they're doing today on atoms. They're trying to figure out what is the smallest, was the smallest point, that they can get to. And, at some point, it was, compounds, and they went to, something that's smaller than these compounds, something smaller than these elements, it went from elements to something that's smaller than these elements. You get down to compounds, got down to molecules, got down to atoms. And then they noticed that, a strong enough microscope, atoms, it was even particles of matter that was making up atoms, quarks. From quarks, it's reported that the technology is cannot see any kind of indistinguishable, or does not notice any kind of indistinguishable patterns or behaviors within the structure of, say, quarks. So they'll say, well, quarks have no internal structure because of that. But in my personal belief, I feel like a scope, powerful enough technology can be made to look at what even quarks are made of. But what'll happen is that it'll keep running into something that's smaller than what quarks made of, or something that's smaller than even that what you just discovered was what quarks are even made of. So it'll keep on going like that. My opinion, you'll always find something that's smaller than, because something, in accordance with the logic, something has to make something. And if you say that, well, if it has no internal structure, which means that it's made up of nothing. A quark is made up of nothing then. That's what that would suggest. Unless it's technology that can be made, that can keep on seeing. But as you keep on going, then you would keep on running into, in my opinion, an infinity or what's smaller. So that before, I believe that before is as you keep on, figuring out what's before quarks, and as you keep on doing that, because all that is before, and that's what matter is made up of before, like quarks. In my opinion, in my theory, it's made up of before. So the concept of what's before is very much a plausible and observable concept. And that concept, the pure concept of what's before, as in what precedes the pure definitive concept of what's before, is, in my opinion, the creator of the universe and everything. It's creator everything before. Before is responsible for everything. As before being the preceding to everything, to anything that could ever be thought of and what can't even be thought of before precedes. The concept of what's before precedes, and as stated, the concept of before is measured, is noticed through what was mentioned earlier. Before, like 999 trillion Googleplexian years ago, 999 trillion years ago, or 999 trillion Googleplexian years ago. I could come to even a more familiar, closer to the age of the universe. You can even say a billion years ago, as before. 14 billion years ago, that's before. 15 billion years ago, 20 trillion years ago. So, and again, it is also reported that it's possible that time is not linear like how it basically is in certain parts of the universe. How time is, or how it's expressing itself is in a whole nother way, as in time could be moving slower in this dimension of the universe, faster in this dimension of the universe. But as my point on before is, there was always before that portion of the universe, that dimension of the universe, before the universe, any of the rules that is associated, or any of the patterns, any of the distinguishing factors and characteristics that is displayed to show characteristics of what the universe is. So I do believe that there is a concept of before is what created the universe, in my opinion, and the universe itself is expanded into the before. Again, if the universe is expanding, the universe has size. It has a size that is measurable, but it is expanding, which means that that size, you can say rapidly changing, but that size is still measurable. Before, in my opinion, it's not measurable, as in it's always something that will always be before, as you keep on coming to that point where something is before, that point where something is before. So that's what I believe is the creator of the universe and everything before.